Hi, Lauren here. In this video, I am going to be talking about miscarriage, about healing from miscarriage, what helps, what hurts, and trying after miscarriage. So maybe you have just experienced a miscarriage, or you've just found out that there's no heartbeat and you're waiting for your body to miscarry, or maybe someone you love has recently miscarried and you are curious how you can support them. So I'm glad you're here and I hope you find this video helpful. I want to start really quickly with what hurts. I won't spend too much time on this part, but I think that when it comes to this topic, it's easy to get hurt by other people if you're the one that is experiencing the miscarriage. So I'll touch on that in a second. But in regards to yourself, I think that one of the things that's very dangerous and really easy to do is to play the what if game, to feel really guilty and wonder what you did wrong. Was it this? Was it that? You know, what you could have done differently to have had a different outcome. And most miscarriages do happen in the first trimester, and of those ones, really there's just nothing you could have done, and so something wasn't going right. And so I know that for me personally, I was struggling with depression, and so was my husband during our first miscarriage. So I actually remember crying to my parents before I even miscarried, or knew that my baby wasn't alive anymore, that I was afraid that I was gonna kill my baby because I felt so sad. And sorry, I laugh because I started to get emotional. So it's a real, I totally understand struggling with that guilt, but don't play that game. Let it go. It's not your fault. And if you did have a miscarriage later in your pregnancy, I'm so sorry. And there might be something that I don't want you to internalize it and play that guilt game, but you might be able to find some answers by talking to a doctor, fertility specialist, getting your blood drawn and looking in more in depth. But don't beat yourself up. So, okay, so the other part of it is people and what they will say to you, usually being very well-meaning, and it's not helpful and it doesn't feel good. So you might encounter people in the medical field that are just desensitized to miscarriage because it is so common. About 25% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. So don't be surprised if you just get that vibe from a nurse or a doctor, and I know that I experienced that. So that can happen. A lot of people might say, well, at least you know you can get pregnant. You can always try again. Just not have been, God's timing, or, God has a plan, and all those little nice things to say. They just don't really help, do they? They just, they're just like, just don't say them. This is for if you're the person trying to support someone that's going through a miscarriage. So just knowing that this person is in a lot of pain and that they literally, someone died, and even though you never met this person before, and that's a really big wound, and there needs to be grief and there will be pain. And so just acknowledging that and sitting with them in that is helpful. So let's move on to what helps. I know that for me, one of the things that helped the most was talking to my friends and family that had experienced it and feeling less alone, and they just get it. So seek out people and don't be afraid to let people know, because it's a lot more common than you think. And just being able to connect with people that have experienced it before will help you, definitely. If you don't really have people to reach out to, there's a great community online of women that would love to support you. I also found it helpful to read some books. I read part of one book that was actually my mother-in-law's when she had experienced her miscarriage, which was her first pregnancy ended in miscarriage. And just reading a part of that book helped validate my feelings. I was feeling angry and guilty and just all these mix of emotions. And so just seeing somebody write it out and be like, listen, this is totally normal. You don't just have to like swallow this and be okay. And it's okay to not be okay. So that could be helpful. I'm sure there's a lot of great blog posts and things of people sharing kind of the same sentiments. So time is hard because you can't speed up time, but time really is really important to the healing process, giving yourself time. So give yourself grace and time. Give yourself some time off from your duties. So if you're a mom or you're working, you need to take a little break, and you need to take some time to grieve, to cry, to process things. And so that's really important. Accepting help, accepting meals, I think is really crucial. Accepting, people that come help take your kid for you, or, bring you a meal. Accept that help. I know it can be difficult, especially because you feel like maybe you should be okay and whatnot, but that's what our community and tribes are for. So accept that help. I think that doing something to remember your lost baby is really important and good for that process of grieving. So whether you want to write a letter to your baby, to your child, and try not to get emotional, tell them how you feel, tell them that you are sad and things like that. Personally, I did some kind of like art expression, like doodling my emotions and things like that. But then a little bit later on, I did for my, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I've had 2 miscarriages in the last 2 years. So I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but maybe I didn't. So for both of those losses, I painted a rock, and that might sound, I should have gotten it for you, but so I painted a little rock. Actually, it's a pretty good sized rock, and just as something to have around in my house to remember that baby by. So I just did a little heart with a little halo over it and little wings, something pretty simple, but whatever feels right for you. I know I have a friend that made a little sweet shadow box item to have hanging on their wall. I have another friend that has had 3 miscarriages, and she's had ornaments made for each of her 3 angel babies, so that they are always remembering them at Christmas time. So I just think that is important, to have that physical acknowledgement and thing that will help you remember that did happen, and that they're waiting for you in heaven. So a couple other things really quick would be hypnosis, which might sound weird, but I'm a childbirth educator, and we use hypnosis for childbirth, for having a comfortable natural childbirth. So there you could buy a hypnosis track or find one maybe for free. That's for grief, or that's for specifically dealing with miscarriage loss. So just helping you process that way. You could also do like a guided meditation, a visualization exercise. I did that with my midwife. That was really emotional, but also helpful. Actually visualizing my lost babies and as like kids that I could talk to and interact with, and have a little bit of like a emotional closure with that. I used a lot of oils for emotional support, essential oils. So every oil has its own emotional profile, so that can be really helpful. And so I suggest looking into that, or feel free to ask me any questions. yeah, so those are some of the things that helped me, and then I could see helping others too. As far as trying again, you need to go about that and whatever is right for you. I wasn't ready to jump right in. I needed to take more time to, especially after the second loss, to process and to make sure that I was in a good place physically and spiritually and emotionally. But focusing on the positive, focusing on what you do want, surrendering it all because you really don't have control, I think is really key. And all of those things are important once you do get pregnant, because it's a struggle even when you do get pregnant to not fall into that fear and anxiety of like, what if this gets taken away again? So I did personally use essential oils for my hormone balancing. I did start listening to a fertility hypnosis series, so that could be really helpful for you. It was helpful for me to have, there was a specific track for when you are on your period, and so that was helpful because it can be hard if you miscarry naturally. You bleed a lot, and so every period can kind of be a reminder of the bleeding of the miscarriage. And so for me, listening to that fertility track and the hypnosis track when you're on your period is all about being grateful and thankful and embracing your period and where you are at in your cycle and things like that. So yeah, if you have more questions about that, you can let me know, and I'd be happy to tell you more about that fertility hypnosis program. So yeah, it is not an easy thing, and don't feel like you're not moving through it fast enough, and just don't beat yourself up on it. It is a process, and some people their story might be, oh, I got pregnant like a month after I miscarried, and that's great for them, but it doesn't happen that way. And for me is about almost a year later after my second loss that I finally took a positive pregnancy test. So anyways, so it is a journey, and just give yourself grace and find people that can be there for you. And when it comes to when you do get pregnant, just staying positive and being grateful and focusing on each day as a gift, and just surrendering that to God or whoever is going to be key to you enjoying your pregnancy and not living in fear. So I speak from experience. I'm only 13 and a half weeks in to my pregnancy, but that's what I've been trying to do and will continue to do throughout my whole pregnancy. And so if you have been through and healed from miscarriage, and you have some other suggestions for people on what would be helpful for healing, I would love if you would comment and let us know below. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.